So one of the top questions I get is, John, what is the next hot stock pick? What is the next crypto that I got to get into? Which way is the market going? How do I be a billionaire tomorrow? That is day trading. That is not investing. If you want to go do that, it's sexy and cool, and that's what all the kids want to do. Fine. If you want to go to the casino and gamble all your money away, your prerogative. That is not investing. When I'm talking about investing and how you should think about investing, this is what I'm talking about. Sustainable growth over a long period of time that actually creates and builds wealth, not a few lucky picks here and there that got you magically wealthy. That just doesn't happen to people, and we need to wipe that idea off the map, because really we talk about it a lot more than it actually happens. So to talk about one of the top investors in the world, Mr. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha. So a couple of things that I want to draw your attention to here. Obviously, Warren Buffett is like the 10th or 11th richest person in the world. He's worth over $100 billion, which is just an unattainable amount of money for the 99.99% of us. But what he talks about and the quotes that he has out there aren't, I'm amazing and I know what I'm doing and da-da-da-da. It's, I'm a little bit better than average over a longer period of time, and that's how we got here. And he talks about that through the power of compounding, and that is really what built a lot of his wealth, was just the longest time horizon and letting that money just grow and not touching it. And so when we actually look at this chart, I mean, it obviously gets blown out because $100 billion is so much, but he started at 14 with $5,000. Then what I really like about this, though, is when you pull it up, when he crossed $1 billion, he was making $50,000 a year, twice the national average. That's like a person today making $140,000 or $150,000, whatever the number is, right? But not even making hundreds of millions, just a few hundred grand. And he was worth over $1 billion in total because of his investments. Now, a lot of this, I will say, is from business deals and that sort of growth and those sorts of things. But fundamentally, what happens at some point is that when you've got enough money, like him, it is just growing on itself. And that is what he attributes a lot of his wealth and a lot of his success to, is the power of compounding. Now, how does this affect you? Let's jump over to your information. All right, so if we take your actual money, and let's say that we can put the money into an IRA or a Roth IRA at 20 years old, we put $1,000 in there, right? The time horizon from 20 to retirement is 45 years. For the first number of years, if we look at this chart, and I'm assuming an 8% return because the S&P gets about 10 and the Fed targets inflation at 2, so 10 minus 2, let's just go with 8%. It's not a wildly out of this world number, but it's not overly conservative either. So decent number. When you look at the first few years, you don't really see a whole lot of growth. And if you see the chart in the middle there where it says if you started at 60, you got $1,470 at 65. So in the first 5 years, you make $465. But the difference between investing at 20 and 25, that 5-year gap, is a $10,000 difference, because that is the power of compounding. Our brain likes to work in 2 plus 2 equals 4. It doesn't like to work in 2 times 1.08 raised to the 40th power. It doesn't like to do that. But what happens is the first year at 8% return on $1,000, you make $80. And then the second year, you start with 1080 and you make whatever it is, 80 something dollars, whatever, 8%, $85, whatever. So then you're at, 11 something, 65 or whatever, right? So you're growing on the growth. And that's what happens. And when that starts to take over, that's when you start to really see the big gains and the big growth. And if you continue this chart out further, let's say you could start younger, or you could do it for your kids, for example. You continue that out further, that same $1,000 is now worth $70,000. It is, for a 10-year jump, worth double. And you don't see that. I mean, I guess you see it from 30 to 20. Yeah. You about see it there, but it's now you're just at a point where it's just this exponential growth, right? Like it's just going straight up, and that's how you really build wealth. Now, another piece of this is it doesn't include reinvesting dividends. So a lot of big companies like to give out dividends at the end of the year if they have the extra cash and whatever. It's a good reward for their investors, sort of tells you the company's doing well, all that kind of fun stuff. That would also move this chart up faster and would get you exponential growth faster. But obviously I can't model that because then you're just going to get into so many nuances. But generally speaking, this looks a lot like Warren Buffett's chart, and this is just exponential return growth. It is not anything crazy, and it's not cool and sexy and fun for the first 20 years when your $1,000 isn't even worth $5,000, right? But it is cool and sexy and fun when it's worth $32,000. So that's how you need to think about it. Some other things that go into this when we talk about retirement, right? Obviously, you're going to put more than $1,000 away for retirement. This is just the example. And you're going to do it over time, and it's going to get staggered, and it's going to look very different. But when we think about retirement, I am targeting $2 million in my retirement account. That's my goal. And the methodology, the thought process behind that is at 4% returns, which I could go find out of a high yield savings account right now. Very conservative number. I'm making $80,000 in interest a year. On that $80,000, I can live and not deplete the $2 million that I had in there. So I've accomplished two things now. I'm not going to run out of money, right? I'm not going to outlive my savings account and then be 96 years old going, I don't know what to do. I have $0. That's not going to happen. And everything that I have in there, I can pass down to the kids who are adding to their own retirement, who are doing their own things. And I pass that along, and now they've got a boost, and then they don't need to work longer. They can retire, right? And they can live off that money perpetually. And so when we talk about creating perpetual growth, this is what it is, or perpetual wealth, sorry. This is what it is. It's having enough money that you don't run your money down and you can still spend it and live the way that you want. So there's a thought process for you as you're thinking about your retirement. And obviously, I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that, so go talk to one to figure out how to game plan all of this and see what their returns are, and tell them you want to go with a conservative number and you want to think about those types of things if that's what you want to do. The other thing that I do want to point out, and you'd have to talk to a professional about this, but the nuanced difference between an IRA and a Roth IRA. An IRA is pre-tax, so they take it out of your paycheck before you ever pay taxes on it. So it lowers your taxable income this year, okay? A Roth IRA is post-tax, so you pay taxes and then you take the $1,000 you have left over and you put it into the account. Why does that matter? Well, because when you go to draw the money, when you get to $32,000 and you go to draw that money out, you're gonna have to pay taxes on it if it's in a regular IRA. If it's in a Roth IRA, you already paid taxes on it, so you don't pay taxes on the $31,000 of gains that you made, where in an IRA you do. Now, if your brain immediately went, fine, I'm gonna put all my money into a Roth IRA, great. But if your employer does a match, if they say 5% of your salary will match it into an IRA, then that match is doubling your input. So it's like putting $500 in instead of $1,000 in, right? And that just doubles all of your gains all of a sudden. So doing that first is generally thought to be the better method, because that doubling is going to outweigh the taxes that you're going to pay later. So you actually get more out of it because of the match. And there are limits to what you're allowed to put in and how much and this and that and the other thing. And you can talk to financial advisors about where to put the other money that you want to invest, because these aren't the only two options. But when you go in to talk to them, what I want you to think about, regardless of what your age is, if you have kids, I want you to think about your kids, is how much time can you extract from all of this, right? And how can you set up something to create perpetual wealth? And it is going to take a lot of time and a lot of years, but this is how investing really fundamentally works, and how you can really set yourself up for success and live your dreams and retire and do all of these things and retire your kids early and all of that kind of fun stuff. It comes down to a very boring chart that is not cool, not sexy, not whatever. It is just fundamentally sound. That is how investing works. Thank you for watching.